About prejudice and racism. This is my opinion. Everyone has their own view about racism and prejudice. The way I view it, I really probably should say prejudice, extreme prejudice, and racism. The way I view things, okay, I think that everybody is prejudiced. I think all of us are prejudiced. To me, prejudice is just stereotypes based on ignorance. That's what I think prejudice is. I think extreme prejudice is when the stereotypes and your ignorance towards another ethnicity leads you to become rageful. Like the fact that you don't understand, or the fact that you don't know anything about a certain ethnicity and you play on your stereotypes. If what you say to that certain person, if whatever response they give or whatever they're doing that's something that's rubbing you the wrong way, it brings you to rage, okay? Not to a point where you're getting physical. You're just, maybe you start calling a person a nigger, okay? Maybe you will blurt out they're a monkey or something like that. Just racial slurs in the context of anger, okay? I think that's extreme prejudice. I think that racism is an actual act, like an action. Okay, I think racism can only be accomplished if you have a certain power over an individual and you use that power to inflict harm on that individual or a group of people. Okay, now I don't know the cause of racism. I don't know the cause of prejudice. People say that it's taught. But if you ask me, I think that it's because we're really not educated on all ethnicities and all different types of people. So since we're ignorant to it, it can go one of three ways. And I just name them. It can go the prejudice way, where we're all standing there. Well, most people are standing there where we could probably make jokes about our differences and not get offended by the jokes, or we could, be open to ask questions about certain things that we see within the ethnicity, something that's different from what we're used to. Okay, we can have conversations about it. We could, trying to pretty much face the ignorance. Okay, your normal prejudiced person is trying to figure out, about that person. We recognize that there is a difference. So I guess I will say that is like a prejudice. We recognize that there is a difference between me and this other person. Okay, if I'm in front of an Asian guy, I obviously see it's a difference. That's why I hate when people say I see no color. Okay, but you see it, all right? So I obviously see it's a difference between me and this Asian person. And instead of me being extremely prejudiced and just throwing all type of slurs at this person because I don't understand his culture, I don't understand anything about him. I just know he looks different, and whatever he's doing is making me rageful. He could just be standing there, okay, and I'm like throwing slurs at him because I don't want that type of person around me. I don't know anything about him. Maybe I know a little bit, and a little bit I got is from stereotypes, okay? So I could be prejudiced where I recognize the difference and we just have a discussion, or we make jokes or anything like that about our differences. We confront them, we recognize them, and we talk about them in any kind of way. All right. With you being, when you living with this inside of you, okay, I don't think that there is a cure. Like, I can't see anybody looking at somebody that's different from them and you can wire their brain to show them that there is no difference between me and this white guy. Like, to me, that's the only cure for it, that we all see each other the same. We all recognize that there is a difference with us. So it's going to be questions, okay? So I don't think it's a cure. I think that the best thing we can do is learn how to channel our energy to combat racism, because to me that's the most extreme form. Okay, when there's a action that's being taken and somebody is doing something to harm somebody because of a different racial background, a different ethnicity, I think that we need to do what we can do to at least stop that from happening. You really can't stop it from happening, but prevent it from happening and reduce the numbers of hate crimes and things of that nature. And I mean that across the board. I'm not sitting here speaking like, there are not crimes being committed by all ethnicities because they don't like a certain ethnicity, okay? I know the highlighted cases are always black and white, and if you're living in the United States, it's always going to be a highlighted case. Get used to it, okay? I know a lot of people take a story about a hate crime as race baiting, okay? It fucking happened, all right? The Dylan Roof shooting happened. It reminds us that it's still here. I don't understand why people get turned off about it instead of trying to do something about it. To me, that says a lot about you, okay? You might be an extremely prejudiced person if you look at a story about racism and it's a legit crime that happened, blatant racism, crime and action that happened in the name of racism, and you look at that and you're like, I don't want to see this on TV. I'm tired of seeing this. I've seen people resist like that, and it makes me wonder about them. Like, what the fuck? You can watch any other crime on TV. You can watch a child, watch a case of a child getting murdered on TV, but when you see this, it like triggers you for some reason. To me, that like shows an extreme level of prejudice in that person. They don't want it to come out, okay? Because that right there is egging it on. All right. But that's just a theory. That's not something that I have based on fact. Okay. Now, back to what I was saying. I think we need to do what we can to combat racism. And I think that where we get lost is we take a lot of energy and we put it into prejudice and extreme prejudice, okay? And what I mean by that is people get outraged by name calling, people get outraged by certain slurs, and we'll take, if I walk down the street and a white person calls me a nigger, I'm whipping my phone out, I'm recording him. What did you call me? You called me a nigger. I'm getting him calling me a nigger on camera, and I'm sending it to the news, and I'm putting it on Facebook, and I'm making this big deal about this guy calling me a nigger. This guy being extremely prejudiced. He didn't put his hands on me, okay? He didn't do anything to harm me or anybody around me. He just showed that he was extremely prejudiced, okay? And I don't think that that's something that we should be taking to the media. Maybe you can post it on social media, I guess, for shits and giggles or whatever, or just to remind people that there are extremely prejudiced people out there. But in a way, like, I don't like that, because when it goes viral, it hits the mainstream media. And I think that I always talk about trending. I think we need to trend what's real. Now, if this guy is lynching Mexicans in his front yard and he got racial slurs against Mexican people on their neck and it's blatant racism, okay, yes, take that shit to the media, the police, social media, take it everywhere you can. And I think that space needs to be reserved for that. The media space and a lot of things that we see on social media that needs to trend, that space needs to be saved for racism. I think that extreme prejudice and just mild prejudice, just regular being prejudiced, I think that's something that we can handle amongst each other, okay? If somebody is throwing racial slurs at you, you can walk the fuck away. You can curse them out. You can tell the police. You know, you can handle that on your own. Bringing it to a wider audience and making them have a conversation about your situation with just some random guy on the street is not gonna solve racism. It's not gonna solve an extremely prejudiced person. They're still gonna fucking be there. Okay, what you're doing is just showing an asshole on TV and on social media. That's basically what you're doing. So you handle that yourself. Okay, that is nothing that you can't handle yourself. Now, racism, if you have a person that's killing, beating, you know, punishing any type of person in any kind of way, if it's a politician that's doing some extremely racist shit in whatever town, state he governs, or whatever state he's a senator over, or whatever, you know, if they're pushing some type of policies that's going to affect a lot of minorities, take that shit to the media, okay? Put that shit online. Spread the word, you know, because this is really going to harm us, all right? I think when we highlight extreme prejudice and just prejudice stuff, it makes it harder for people to take racism seriously, okay? When you look at the Donald Trump situation, okay, a lot of things that he says, we will take it and just label it racism, and we'll talk about a tweet that he made for a whole fucking week, okay? And if Donald Trump is a racist, us talking about his tweet for a week is not gonna change who he is, okay? Now, if he does some blatantly racist shit, that's what we need to be talking about. If he, okay, you can look at the immigration situation with the separating of families. I don't understand why that didn't get more traction, okay? If they want to paint Donald Trump as a racist, that was like the story to fucking run with, okay? Now, his shithole countries, they're bringing bad people and all that stuff. To me, that's like extreme prejudice, you know, for him to say things like that. I think it's extremely prejudiced. And that's something that we could just look at and be like, all right, we know who the fuck you are. Hold the thought in your head. I'm not saying don't forget. I'm saying don't trend, okay? Don't forget. He just identify who you think he is. You think he's a racist. Okay, well, let's not talk about that, because that is a debatable subject. You get into a meaningless debate like I made a video about, okay? And it's not going to lead to nowhere. It's just going to be a bunch of people defending against your theory, because right now it's just a theory. Now, the best proof that I've seen since he's been in office is that, okay? You can debate it. You know, some people, I'm sure people have good comebacks for that to make it not like he's not a racist, but I think you can make a case for it with what he said in the beginning of his campaign about them bringing, he showed his extreme prejudice with him saying that the one judge shouldn't preside over a case because he was Mexican. And then, you know, like I said, you just eat that. You remember that. That's what I did, okay? I remember what he said during his campaign and during some of his presidency about Latino people. I remember how he handled the Puerto Rico situation. Okay, I remembered that. But I wasn't really ranting about it. I made a rant about Puerto Rico, but I didn't really color him as a racist, okay? Now, when this separating the family things come up, boom, I think it's time to let go. That's when the outrage will come out, because people are being affected, okay? A tweet can't do nothing but hurt your feelings. A speech that he does can't do nothing but hurt your feelings. You have to deal with that personally. You can talk about that shit for a month, but it's not going to change him. Your conversation and your opinions about him are not going to change him. But when something concrete like that happens, that's when you act, because you might be able to save those kids and stop him from doing something like that again, okay? You see what I'm saying? I think that racism is something that we really need to focus on. You know, that's the most extreme form of prejudice, okay? If you would call it that, because I think they're separate. But racism is very extreme, Okay, you have an extreme prejudice person who is just blatantly letting loose his stereotypes and his rage about a certain ethnicity. And prejudice is something we all share because we all grew up different and we don't know everything about a person's ethnicity. Okay? I'm going to leave it at that. You guys get in the comments. Tell me I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. You can get in there and give me your definition of racism or prejudice or extreme prejudice. You know, if you agree with me and you got something else you want to add to it to make me think deeper about it, by all means, get in there and say something. You guys have a good one. Peace.